Chapter 1. On Your Own. You lightly rubbed your legs together, feeling the comforting warmth wrapped around you. You pulled the blanket over your eyes, the light making them seem slightly irritated. You lay there for a few more minutes before pulling yourself up and out of your comfortable position. You hear the door creak open, with a small face peeking out from behind it. Lady Sage said that breakfast is ready, and to make sure your travel bag is packed for your parting. You smiled at the small girl. She had a cute smile and long pink hair that sat over her long white gown. Glasses sat loose on her pink cheeks, and her green eyes looked at you. My bags are packed. I just need to grab my bow and arrows before I leave. I'll be down in a few minutes after I change. Oh, okay. You watched as she closed the door with the sound of a click, and listened to her small steps as they faded away. You stretched your arms up and arched your back with the obvious sound of bone popping. You let your arms rest back down before pulling the rest of the blanket off your lower body. You slid around and felt the cool wood underneath your bare feet. The bed made a slight creaking noise as you rose up. You walked over to the little nightstand where you had neatly laid your folded outfit. All you were able to purchase were brown pants, a tan-collared long-sleeve shirt, and a brown leather chest corset. You had admitted the straps on the corset rubbed on your shoulders more than you would appreciate, but it was all that you could afford in order to protect yourself. You had worked a few jobs, like being an herbs collector or a baker, but admittedly, they never paid enough, especially because you were still just a kid. But today, you're an adult. The thought of it made you smile. You were finally 18, which means you were able to set off on your own. All the amazing thoughts of what you'll do came flushing in like a river finally running through after unclogging a beaver dam. Once I join the beast hunting coven, I can make some gold, and maybe even get a nice house on the river. Soon enough, I'll find a nice husband, have kids, maybe even a pet, and live happily and comfortably. At least that's what Lady Sage wants for you anyway. But you really just wanted to travel around to meet new people. The thought of learning new cultures or even languages was enough to get you hyper. Once you had gotten changed, you slipped on your knee-high boots, grabbed your bag, and ran downstairs for breakfast. You liked the sound of your boots, almost sounding like those funny-looking shoes that royals always wore. You think they were called heels? Your thoughts shifted as the smell of food danced through the air. You turned the corner to see the last of the plates being set down on the table. I'm gonna miss it here. You walked over and slid a chair out. The quiet sound of scratching wood tickled your brain. Laughter filled the room along with little kids. Lion, look! I found a frog! The little boy with brown hair and a missing front tooth held up a little brown toad. Close! That's a toad. You can tell by its warts on the back. Some say if you hold them long enough, you'll start to grow warts too. Then you'll look like a witch. You exaggerated that last part. You even lifted your hands up to make your fingers dance like spider legs. I don't want to be an ugly witch. You laughed as the boy quickly plopped the toad back outside and ran into the kitchen to wash off his hands. YN. The voice of your caretaker came off as harsh. She usually always was on the rough side. But you haven't done anything wrong. Yes, ma'am? You looked her in her eyes for a moment before her own shifted with her smile. I wish you all the best out there in the wild, my lovely dove. Lovely Dove was given to you as a nickname about 3 years back. That's when you were finally able to make your first bullseye. After that, you never missed. Okay, maybe you would miss a few times, but most of the time you were perfect. You returned her smile and approached her with your arms out ready for a hug. She had returned it. Thank you. You know, I really am gonna miss this place. Oh, don't you dwindle on this place. You go find yourself a good husband and a beautiful home with lots of kids. I'll think about it. She gave you a, yeah, okay, before walking off to grab food. You wanted to go help, but were quickly pulled back into your seat. Wait, it's a surprise, you can't see it. Yeah, so close your eyes. You smiled at the twins, Both had smooth white hair, with Hikara having a black undercut. They both shared the same smile and blue eyes, though. They were only 2 years younger than you, so they'll be leaving the orphanage soon as well. You closed your eyes and waited for the food to be presented. You knew that there was bacon because that was the first thing you smelled on your way down. Bacon was expensive, which means that the twins must have pulled in some gold as well for the meal. It was going to be the last one you shared with them for a while, so no wonder why they wanted to make it special. The sound of heavy plates on the wooden table made you excited. The taste of foods always made you happy. You hadn't had bacon since your 13th birthday. That was when Riley had taken her leave for that day. Your eyes burned slightly at the thought of leaving the kids here. You remembered when others had left, but you couldn't help but be proud that you were finally going to do something. Maybe you could make maps one day for the king, or ride a horse in a battle. Okay, open your eyes! You opened your eyes, letting the blurry mess fade away to reveal pancakes, sweet strawberries, and bacon. You also noticed the expressions of the children who were eager to eat the sweets. You looked over to Sage, waiting for her to sit. She gave a wide smile before sitting and extending her hands out for a prayer. Everyone else sat and connected hands with each other. May the gods above bless this last meal that we share with our lovely dove. Give her the strength and energy to become something great. May she also find a strong husband who will always provide and protect her during her journey. Lavastana. Lavastana. Lavastana was a saying that she had carried over from the dragons. She claimed that during their praises, they would end it with Lavastana. It means, I give to you my trust, my heart, and my strength. You doubted it was a dragon term, but it never bothered you. The quick sound of moving silverware almost caught you off guard. Everyone was grabbing the food with wide smiles and giggles. Pancakes were slapped onto your plate along with bacon. I can grab it myself, guys. We know. It's just our way of thanking you for all the gold you spent for us. When you turned 12, you started working around to get gold. You always made sure to get the children presents on their birthday. If this is what they could do to pay you back, then you wouldn't argue.
Let's eat.
Thank you.
Let's eat!
You cut a piece of the pancake and rubbed it into the strawberry syrup. You took a bite and instantly melted at the soft texture. It melted in your mouth, the warmth overwhelming your body. It was so tasty. The saltiness and the crunch of the bacon went so well with the sweet fluffiness. It wasn't long before you had taken your last bite. Everyone was quick to clean up the plates before gathering at the door to bid you farewell. You stood at the door looking at all the children. You gave them a smile and a wave before opening the old door. The light streamed through onto your body. You held up your hand to see through it. You looked down at the town that sat below the hill. Your grin only grew as you ran down the hill, giving the orphanage one last goodbye as the children waved back. You ran through the town and quickly showed up at the front door of the Hunter's Coven. You reached out for the handle, but before you could grab it, the door swung open, hitting you square in your face. You stumbled backwards and plopped onto the ground. You held your face as thick blood ran down from your nose. The footsteps of someone caught your attention. You looked up to see a tall blonde who looked tribal, almost barbaric. He walked past you. He barked something you couldn't understand, but his glare explained everything. You looked away from the rude blonde and heard his steps fade away. A second set made you look up. Oh my goodness, are you okay? He had spiked red hair along with animal hide clothing. You had also noticed the red scales that laid across his body. They traveled up from his hand, but faded away before they reached his neck. His cheeks had a few shiny scales of their own, but you had mostly noticed his teethy smile. You watched as he presented his red-clawed hand to you. You rested your hand on his and felt the warmth radiating off from him. You couldn't process much before his hand wrapped around yours and quickly pulled you up to your feet. The quickness made your head slightly ache. What was that guy's problem? He didn't even apologize, you said, looking down at the blood smudged along your hand. Oh, Bakugo? He's just upset. He can come off as harsh most of the time. Sorry about that. I'm Kirishima, by the way. I'm Wayan. He gave you another teethy smile before reaching to his bag that laid on his hip. He pulled out a cloth and gave it to you. You can use my handkerchief for your nose. I hope you're okay, though. How's your head? You took the cloth and thanked him. You lightly dabbed the cloth on your nose, removing the blood. I'm fine. Thank you again. It's all good. It's nice to meet you, Wayan. You watched as the boy ran off to catch up with his rude blonde. I forgot to give him his cloth back. What did he call it? Handkerchief? You looked back to see that he was already gone. I'll clean it just in case I run into him again. You opened the door and walked in. It wasn't anything special inside, but there was a person shifting behind the desk with lots of scattered items. You had noticed how there were a few others sitting at tables looking at you as you entered. If this place wasn't known for being a guild, you'd think it was a bar. You walked up to the man behind the desk, who quickly adjusted in his seat once he had noticed you. Name's Ron. What can I do for you? I'd like to register in the guild system and get my license. All right. He picked up a thin paper card and a feather pen. Name? Wayan Ellen. Age? Just 18 today. Younger and younger, man, I swear. Magic level? Magic level? Not a magic user, all right. He dipped the pen into a red ink and made a circle under one of the card descriptions. May I assume you use a weapon, then? Yes, I'm an acceptable bow user, and I'm educated on a dagger. Do you know how to cut game? Yes, sir. All right, here's your card. I have a copy of my own. When you catch game worth something, you bring it to a place like this. You get money, maybe even level up, and we get to use the game for its parts. What do you use the parts for? Magic users pay good money for specific parts. That's the main one, anyway. You looked at the card with the blue outline. Any significance to the card having a blue outline? Yeah. Blue is beginner, green is intermediate, orange is experienced, red is advanced, white or black are expert. White is for magic users, and black is for weapon users. Oh, thank you so much. You gave him a slight bow and took your leave. You think she knows? No, she won't last very long. Voices were heard as you closed the door. You ignored them and walked off to join wagons on the path that toward the woods. There was at least one guild at any trade town, and minimal 3 in large town. You even heard that some castle towns had up to 8. You walked alongside the wagons, traders, and other travelers. One of them you had noticed carried a sword at hip. He was traveling with a relatively short girl and held a staff that twisted around a green gem. You walked faster to catch up to them. Are you two guild adventurers? We are. Need something? Are there any good places you recommend? I just joined today. Brother and I often go to the Pixie Forest. There's good catches in there. Just don't go too far in. The deeper you go, the more dangerous it gets. It's off path, though. That's great. When should I switch paths? Honestly, I rely on my sister. She's a half-fairy, so she gets automatically drawn to the place. You can tag along if you'd like. I'll point it out when we get close. That'd be nice. Thank you so much. If you don't mind me asking, you said you're a half-fairy? Yeah, name's Lily. I'm a fairy hybrid between human and fairy. How did that work? Fairies and pixies can take on different forms, so our mom often takes on the human form. Oh, does that mean you're a half-fairy too? You can call me Nyx, and no, I had an actual human mother. We're only half-siblings. How long have you two been traveling together? Dang, almost 4 years now. We started when we were 16 doing petty things like raiding dungeons and body collection. Do they pay well? The pay for body collection from dungeons are acceptable, but the danger isn't worth it. The three of you chatted more about jobs. They seemed quite interested in your herb collection. You even wrote down a few common ingredients for burn creams and disinfectants. Time seemed to have passed faster than you thought, when Lily had pointed out an animal path that went through the pixie woods. Be careful! Look out for orgs. I heard they're getting closer to
Safe
towns.
travels.
Thanks, I will. Safe travels.
Safe travels.
You told them your farewells and walked down the narrow animal path. It was muddy, and you could notice other human prints. It looked to be too, but you ignored them. You traveled further and further into the woods, looking around for any movement that wasn't wood or simple flornes. Flornes were small fairy flowers. They were harmless and magicless, so they weren't worth anything really. They just lived off the magic that flowed through the earth. Each creature is derived from a magic category. Flornes are from earth magic, so they stay in areas that are rich in it. Creatures like humans are what are called transparents. They aren't born with any magic abilities unless they're golden souls, dragonkin, hybrids, or use rubies. Rubies are legendary items that are infused with magic of their own. Some creatures possess so much magic that they're called givers. They don't need magic from the earth. They can just create their own. Those were usually elves. They believe in giving back to the Mother Earth. Even though they live in solitary confinement and limited areas, they say their magic reaches all across the lands, enriching it and making it thrive. You wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the areas that grew from one of these magic branches. Falzagat! An untranslatable yell came from your right, making your head turn. As soon as you did, a horse-like creature jumped into view, its skin white and painted with golden swirls, its golden hair flowing behind it. It was coming right for you. A large horn was aimed right for you. You turned your body around only to see one similar to the one before, injecting you with its horn. This one had silver swirls and mane. You grabbed the head of the horn and tried to get the beast to pull out from your chest, only to be kicked by the one before. Its hind legs hit with a force strong enough for your arms to break. You had assumed that's what happened because of the very audible crack. You hit the ground and screamed with pain. You grabbed your aching arm and heard the trampling hooves and heavy neighing of the horses leaving. You lay there, grabbing your arm as your head grew fuzzy. Your vision blurred at the sight of a tall blonde running towards you. He stood over you with a twisted expression that sat between being horrified and confused. He looked so confused. Why? Can't you see my arm? I'm in so much pain. Why does my chest still ache so much? You moved your hand slowly from your arm to your chest. You lost your consciousness before you could understand what had just happened. Bakugo's POV, slight cursing. I continued to chase the damned beast, cursing at it as if it would help, but I lost sight of it as it jumped out of view. I ran faster to try to catch up, but the sound of an eerie scream made my breath hitch. I had hoped it was just another beast and not a human. I emerged from the bushes to see the damned beast running off with its foal. It had a foal? My attention was drawn to the voice of a struggling girl. I ran over and felt my stomach twist at the sight. She laid on the ground holding her arm, but under her arm was a horrifying sight. There, sticking out from her chest, was a snapped horn. The skin from around the wound was already growing back around the horn. I couldn't do anything but watch as the horn quickly sank deeper into her. The skin was also quick to cover the evidence of its existence. Her screams had gone silent when she tried to reach for her chest. She was unconscious. I knelt down and gently pressed my fingers into her wrist, feeling her quiet beat. She was still alive, but she doesn't have much longer. I slid my hands under her slightly shaking figure. I lifted her up into my arms. Her head collapsed into my chest, and her arm dangled at her side. Her expression was one of pain. I couldn't help but feel weak looking at her aching body. I felt the magic start to pour out from her. The magic was thick and strong. The horn must have been broken while the creature was pissed. This magic might turn into something worse if it goes untreated. Shit. And that concludes the first audio of Chapter 1 on your own. Thanks for listening.